Are you ready?
Let's go.
Now circling in the neutral zone.
Here's the pitch on the way. 36 yards for the win.
This.
Here comes a big chance. The shot
is
this the dagger?
the neutral zone.
home run. Good.
This is as good as it gets.
The Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca.
Now, here's your host, two-time Paralympian, Brock Richardson.
What's going on? It's time for another edition of The Neutral Zone. I am indeed your host, Brock Richardson, and I have to tell you that last week I bugged Mr. Watson about, not knowing that it was the American League Division Series and the National League Division Series. Well, this week we did our show a little bit backwards, and I was about to because we normally do it in order, and I was about to go, okay, we did segment 2 and then we'll jump into segment 3, and so Josh is like, yeah, we're doing it a little backwards. All right, we got to do it from the top of the show first. So thank you, Josh, for keeping me on my toes, because somebody clearly has to. Coming up on today's show, we are pleased to be joined by multi-Paralympic athlete Greg Westlake, who's won a lot of medals on the international scene and also the Paralympics as well. So that's going to be a really great chat coming up in a little bit. Plus, we're also going to be talking about why it's important to be on a board and what boards do, particularly for parasports. We're going to get into that conversation and much, much more on the program. I'm joined by Josh Watson and Cam Jenkins. Here comes your headline.
Neutral Zone headlines.
Ontario Para Network is currently seeking individuals for their board of directors. Available spots include Director of Sponsorship and Partnerships, Director of Social Media and Communications, and Director at Large. For more information, please go to onpara.ca, or you can follow them on all social media platforms.
The 2024-25 PWHL season gets underway on November 30th with the newly named Toronto Scepters hosting the Boston Fleets. And then the Ottawa Charge will be visiting the Montreal Victoire. I'm really looking forward to the new PWHL season, and hopefully it's as exciting as last year.
Yes, and it seems also that teams have sold out again from their season tickets. So this is good news for the Professional Women's Hockey League. New Jersey Devils goaltender Jake Allen becomes the only goaltender in NHL history to have a victory against all 33 NHL franchises. Allen has played over 431 games and has a .908 save percentage. So it's pretty cool that somebody who has had a successful career can say that they have won against all 33 teams, considering that we just added the 33rd team not that long ago. So congratulations to Jake Allen and his success. Those are your headlines for this week. If you want to get a hold of us on social, here's how you can.
And welcome back to the Neutral Zone broadcast booth.
Play ball!
We're set to get this bowl game underway. The first pitch is brought to you by Brock Richardson's X account at Neutral Zone BR.
Strike!
Pitch and a strike. Hey gang, why not strike up a chat with Claire Buchanan from the Neutral Zone? Find her on X at Neutral Zone CB. There's a swing of the chopper out to second base, right at Claire as she picks up the ball, throws it over to the first base for a routine play.
Out!
And fans, there's nothing routine about connecting with Cam and Josh from the Neutral Zone at Neutral Zone Cam J and at J Watson 200. And the Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Connect with them at ON Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca. Now that's a winning combination.
We are absolutely thrilled to be joined by multi-Paralympic athlete in para ice hockey and multi-medalist in para ice hockey, both at the Paralympic Games and in international play, Greg Westlake. Greg, it is so nice to have you back on the program. Thanks for making time for us today.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I always love catching up with you, so thanks for having me.
So Greg, after an illustrious career of playing para ice hockey, What made you decide to get involved on the coaching side of things for para ice hockey?
Yeah, just love of the game. I missed it so much. I played 19 seasons with Team Canada, but really it's been a lifelong endeavor. I learned to skate when I was 3 years old on two artificial legs. It was from a very young age. I was just jet set on playing hockey, and so I took 1 year, didn't get on the ice, didn't do anything other than maybe watch a few of my niece's games. Didn't even watch a ton of pro hockey, honestly. Like I just took a year after I retired. And then after that year was up, I knew I wanted to do something. So whether that was locally, so I got involved with Team Ontario with their para team, and Americo was nice enough. Americo Moraes was nice enough to put me on staff there and hook me up with a little gig. And then once Team Canada found out that I was doing that and kind of dipping my toe in the coaching world, they reached out to me and invited me out and gave me some mentorship, and have really been helping me along with the process right now.
You've been involved now for a couple of seasons. Can you talk to us a little bit about your role behind the bench as the assistant coach?
Yeah, I think it kind of changes and evolves every camp and every game and practice. And, as of right now, I kind of view myself as an assistant coach to really just be there for the players, whatever they need, and also to be there to support the head coach and to support Hockey Canada. So I view myself as just an extension of the team, and whatever they need me to do, whether I'm picking up pucks or running a full practice, I'll do whatever they want me to do. This year I've been getting a little bit more responsibility. I've been working with the penalty killers. I've been on the bench a bit more this year. When I'm on the bench right now, I'm focusing more on some of the newer players, the younger guys that maybe need some help, whether it's positionally or maybe some sled skills they could have done a little bit better, or maybe some skills they need to develop to really help them reach the next level. And so that's kind of where my focus is right now. But, I feel like every camp I show up and I get a little bit more and a little bit more. So they're doing a great job of kind of giving me responsibility, but not overwhelming me with too much right away. So I appreciate that. And
with not being overwhelmed or them not giving you too much, what do you think's been the biggest learning curve for you as a coach?
Yeah, it's a great question. As a player, I was a hard worker, but I surrounded myself with really good people. And so I didn't have to design a workout. I had a trainer that did that. I just had to show up and do the work. I didn't design a practice. I just showed up to work, and I had a coach or a skills coach that was there to run that ice session. And so in so many things, I just had to show up with a good attitude and ready to work, but all the planning was done for me. And now I'm in a role where I'm expected to be able to answer some of those questions. Greg, what should I do today? Westy, what do I do in the gym today? What do I do on the ice today? What do you think I should be watching for on video? And so I think just learning the level of preparedness that you need to have as a coach, you got to be ready to answer these questions, really any day. I'm getting texts or messages on social media from guys asking for a conversation and asking for ways that they can get better, which is awesome because they're trusting you. And that's what I did as a player, was put my trust in other people. So I think just learning how prepared you have to be, and you got to be on and ready to answer questions all the time. So I'm really trying to become more and more a student of the game so that I am always ready to help whenever I'm asked.
Now, each one of us being athletes in our own way, we've all had good coaches in our time. I'm wondering what you believe makes you a successful coach.
It's a great question. And, I think when you have as many coaches as I'm sure we have all had in our lives, you take the good that you take some good from every coach, and maybe you leave out some stuff you didn't like from some other coaches. And so I'm no different. I'm a thief of all the good ideas I think are good ideas. But most importantly, I think I care about people. I have a genuine love and respect for the players I get to work with. I know how hard it is to play that sport at an elite level. And so I just have such a genuine love for those guys that go out there and risk their bodies day in and day out. So I think I'm very passionate for the guys. I believe in surrounding myself with good people. So wherever I think I'm weak, I want to have coaches on a staff that make me better, whether that's a video coach, because maybe I'm not the best at clipping video, So I think if you surround yourself with the right people, you have a genuine love and care for the guys, and you're a passionate person, those are kind of the things I really want to do well right now.
Now, Team Canada, they won the World Championships last year, which was fantastic because it's been a few years since they've won it. What do you believe led to the success of the team this time around compared to years past?
I probably shouldn't say that they finally brought me back. I shouldn't say that.
It's all because of you, Westlake.
I'm so joking. It's funny when you're at those events. I think a few things happen. one, you just kind of get sick of losing to the same team all the time, right? The U.S. is a strong team, and we can't deny that they have some skilled guys, and we got to play a certain system to beat them. And so I think we were pretty sick of losing to them and really wanted to get one over on them. And then it's just kind of like a perfect storm. We were playing – we were dedicating that tournament to a young man we met in Alberta who had passed away. And he had come down and met the team in the locker room. And so we were playing with passion. We were playing a little frustrated and angry that we wanted to get over the Americans, and you could almost just feel it building all week. Like it just kept getting a little bit better. You could see the guys kind of coming together every day and hanging out all the time off the ice together. They were spending time going for walks and doing things as a group, not as individuals. And you could just kind of see the pieces coming together. So, if you knew the ingredient and what to do every tournament to win it like that, I'd be a much more famous coach than I am right now. But you just try to recreate it as much as you can, and you try to give the players the best tools and resources they have to be successful. But at the end of the day, they have to go out there and they lay it out on the line and they play the game. So the players did just a phenomenal job, and they really, played defense first. They played the way that Russ Harrington, the head coach, wants them to play. And I think it showed them that if you buy into this game plan, we can be successful with it.
Yeah, it was a great game to watch, a great tournament to watch. Every year is a little bit different for a team like this. So I'm wondering what's on the agenda for this year's edition of the team.
Yeah, I think just keep growing. Yeah, we have such a good mix of veterans like, Tyler McGregor, Liam Hickey, Dom Cozzolino, Tyrone Henry, even I'm Kingsmill now has been around a little bit. We have so many guys like that, but then we have so many young guys. And so that's where I get to work a lot, is with those guys in the skill development part. And so I think it's pretty exciting that we're constantly trying to create internal competition. We're not going to make a trade. We're not going to sign a free agent. And so we need to work with the group that we have, and we need to raise their level every single year. And so for me, when I look at our program, it's all about asking for more every single year. We need to give them more as coaches. We need more from an organization as Hockey Canada, and we need the players to give more every year. And if we get that every year, where we just keep pushing every little facet of the organization and program, that's how you keep building and become a juggernaut and a powerhouse. So this year is about continual growth. Hopefully try to win a few games. Win the big one at the end is always the big goal. But really just keep creating that internal competition and keep having guys learn how to be pros and tremendous athletes, and they'll do it when the time's right for us.
Now, Greg, I know now that you're a coach, who do you see as some of the other teams besides the U.S. and Canada? What are some of the other countries that you can see making progress to maybe inch up closer to being at the same level as the U.S. and Canada?
Yeah, well, I think what has really separated us is very similar to the women's game. It's how serious we treat the game. It's how well we treat our bodies. And, these guys are pros, and I got so much respect for the athletes. And, USA and Canada has done such a great job of pushing themselves physically, emotionally, mentally, every little facet, no stone unturned. And so I look at countries that are starting to do that. What countries are really treating their bodies the right way? What countries are dieting the right way? And right now, I think that's Czech Republic. I think it's China. If Russia ever got let back in, of course, they're a great hockey nation. But it seems to me right now like the Czech Republic's very passionate about the game. They love hosting us every year. We just got back from there last week, and they love the sport there. We always draw good numbers there. And then China, of course, with the last Paralympics being there, they have a team. They got a lot of speed. They have some good technology. And just same thing. I think they take it pretty seriously, and they seem to be pretty quick every time I see them. So those would be two teams that are on the rise.
We're not going to delve into this deeply, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but we all know that the situation with Hockey Canada over the last number of years has been what it has been. How do you feel that, Hockey Canada has continued to support the para ice hockey program? And is there still room for growth in your opinion?
Yeah, there's always room for growth. There's always room for growth. And, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but, it's the athlete's job to ask for more from us every day. And it's our job as coaches to go to the organization and ask for more from them, more funding, more resources, more staff, more camps, more ice time, better food, better hotels. Well, you name it, we're asking for it. So it's no lack of effort in trying. Sometimes in amateur sport, budgets exist and they are what they are. But Hockey Canada's done a great job since I've been back as a coach with supporting the program. They seem to have a lot of eyes on the program right now. And so since I've been here, the last 6, 7, 8 camps, a lot of different vice presidents, a lot of different coordinators have been at our camps, our games, our tournaments, and taking it in. And so, I'm sure they get together back at head office and talk about the state of where our team's at and what we need and what we have and don't have. So I have a lot of faith in their leadership team. So we'll see what comes back. But trust me, I'm always asking for more. I'm a pretty annoying guy when I want to get something.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you never know, right?
Exactly.
That's just the reality of the situation. And I mean, I say this kind of tongue in cheek and Captain Obvious, but I do think the World Championship win does help the situation. I think, for a number of years we saw, seconds, which, to most world championships, if you finish second, you're probably pretty happy. But when you're finishing second to the United States, it's kind of like, oh, darn, we did it again, and it gets tough. And so for me, I saw a totally different Team Canada last year in Calgary. I mean, it was a team that, gave up their body and was putting their bodies in front of pucks. And I'm not saying that wasn't done in years past, but there was a glaring difference in that World Championship that I hadn't seen in 4 years or so. And so for me, it's that whole buy-in of coaches. And I know as the listeners listening to us talk about buy-in, it's so cliche, but it really is true, Greg. If people buy in, it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, you're bang on. And we talk about that game quite a bit as coaches, and we all agree 100% that the level of buy-in, like you said, was there. It's also just selflessness, right? Because you're willing to sacrifice for your buddies because you all want to achieve something together. And if you blocking a shot means that my buddy can get his dream of winning a gold medal, that's a pretty amazing thing, right? And so, I'm just trying to think of a fancier way to say buy-in for you, but it's we just you got to get that commitment from the group that it's just 45 minutes of sacrifice. That's it. And you're not even going to play the whole 45 minutes. So if you get 10 minutes or 20 minutes, that's all we need from each and every guy, right? And what was really cool that we didn't talk about is just it was in Calgary. And to win at home was very special. And so a lot of guys had family and friends there. And when you talk about, you asked me about the organization. One thing that Hockey Canada did this past year in Calgary was they had a friends and family program. So they actually helped pay for guys' wives, girlfriends, parents to be there and be at a world championship and watch the team play. And I actually think it's one of the things that made such a huge impact on that performance, because after the game, all the family got to come into the big Team Canada change room afterward and listen to music and, celebrate the win with each other. And, people are crying and hugging and it was just a huge party in there. And I actually think that was a huge reason as well that we got that buy-in, was because guys got to play in front of their loved ones and lay it on the line for them as well.
Yeah, it was really something, and you could just see the relief. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about that World Championship, and after the first loss in the round robin to the United States, we were hard. We as a group here in the neutral zone, we were like, oh, it's the same story. It's the same story. And then that gold medal game, it was totally different. So really, really great.
Yeah, I think scoring early is a big one for us on that team as well. Just playing from the front, not having to chase the game is a huge thing for us as well.
I'll end here. We talked about it a little bit before we hit record, but what are you doing? You've done some work with production company and Ted Cooper, and we've talked about it on other interviews that you and I've done. What have you got cooking that you can possibly share with us, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, we do a ton of media days. We do a ton of sports media days, which is always a ton of fun, kind of doing the car wash, and interviewing other athletes is kind of my favorite thing to do. And so any chance I get with the team, evergreenproductions.ca, check it out. And then we have a couple TV shows that we're working on and pitching as well. And then hopefully doing some work with Invictus Games coming up in Vancouver as well. So for us, we love working in anything from pro sports to grassroots programming to people who are just making a difference in their community. So that's kind of where our heart is. And that's what we try to accomplish every day.
Great stuff, Greg. Always appreciate your work and always appreciate the fact that you make time for me, whether I'm here or whether I'm at, some summit somewhere and I send you a message, hey, can we have a chat? You're always willing, so I appreciate it very much.
Always, man. I love talking to you guys, so thank you, and have me back.
Will do, for sure.
The Neutral Zone is sponsored by the Ontario Para Network. Their focus on the growth and development of wheelchair basketball, tennis, and rugby in Ontario.
So guys, we just had a wonderful, wonderful conversation with Greg Westlake, and he has delved into the same world as you guys in para ice hockey, competed for the national team for many, many years, now is delving into the coaching side of things and becoming successful at it slowly. He was on the winning world championship team in Calgary, as we just talked about. Cameron, to start with you, what do you think will make Greg a good coach?
I think that his years of experience being a player is going to be the number one thing, because he's going to be able to guide, because he's been probably in most situations you can be when it comes to para ice hockey. And he's played both defense and forward, I believe, as well. So, whether it's the skills development, whether it's, how to get quicker, there's plenty of things that he's learned over the years, shooting as well, using both hands, because in para ice hockey, you use both hands to be able to shoot when you're at that level. So, and just the knowledge that he can give people to, if they start to get stressed or if they start to kind of wonder about things, he'll be there to calm them down and be able to say, okay, imagine it to this situation, and then they'll be able to kind of calm down and be able to be more focused, because when you're at that high level, a lot of it is about mental toughness and being good, mentally healthy. So I think he's going to be able to do all of those things. And with talking to him, he really seemed to know the X's and O's of the games as well. Just when you had asked that last question, Brock, he said that you were bang on with your answer. So I think he knows a lot about the X's and O's and what it takes for a team to beat another team, depending on, what that other team does.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Cameron. I think above all else, the thing that I find with him is that he's very calm and very personable. I have no doubt that he gets fired up when he's on the bench and when he played, but I definitely get a sense that there's not going to be a scenario that is too big for him. He's been to Paralympics, he's been to World Championships, he's been to local tournaments and had those experiences as well. He's played at every level of hockey as far as para ice hockey goes. And I just feel like he's the type of person that can meet you at your level. So if you're a person that needs a little bit of hand holding, a little bit of coddling, he can do that, and he can talk to you that way. And if you're somebody that maybe slacks off a bit or needs a kick in the pants, he's not going to be afraid to do that either. He's going to be able to tell you, like, get your butt in the gym and start doing this and that, because that's what you need in order to get to where you want to go. And nobody can argue with him because he's been there.
Yeah, I agree with everything both of you have just said. I think, too, for me, as I was listening to him answer all of our questions, he still has that, knows how to handle media. His answers are very succinct, they're very thorough, but they get to the point. There's none of this, like, fluff that gets added. He's very much to the point, and that speaks to a Paralympic athlete who has been through media training, who understands what it is the media is trying to get out of him. And I know I had to phrase my question very carefully, because when I asked him about Hockey Canada, I didn't want to delve into the history of what has gone on to Hockey Canada. The point of my question was, are they being supportive? And I didn't want to put him in a bad spot where he's like, well, I don't really want to talk about the history. But I do want to know for sure, are they supporting the program? And it sounds, Josh, like they are.
Yes, absolutely. It certainly seems like whatever they, as a coaching staff, feel the team needs, Hockey Canada is there to listen and to do what they can to provide them with it. So that is fantastic news, uh, given where we have been in the past. It's always felt to me as if the Americans have been a step ahead of us in development. And to hear that Hockey Canada is on board and willing to give the team what they need, I think that's great news.
Cameron, when you think about the interview, how much does it help when Greg says, I really think part of the success was the fact that family, friends, girlfriends, wives were all part of the team here? How much do you really put that together with the success at World Championships, or is that more of just that's just them saying because it worked out?
No, I think it 100%, 100 million percent helps out. When you have your loved ones there or your friends there and they're cheering, especially if it's at home in Canada, that really helps to boost you up. The adrenaline starts flowing, and I think that that can really help most professional players, to be in that state of mind. So the support, being able to be there with your family and friends, like you said, when they're in the huge change room that they had, and they're all listening to music, and they're there with their loved ones, having a great time, celebrating. It means everything in the world to have somebody there support you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know even for someone like myself, I play a little bit better when I know my parents are in the stands, because you're actually you actually know that there's somebody there paying attention to you. And so, not that you need that sort of extra motivation, because I don't think anyone really does when they play a game, but it helps. It helps to know that someone's there for you no matter what happens.
Yeah, and with you saying about parents, Josh, it reminded me of when my parents came. I think it was to Collingwood. And I didn't think they would be coming because it's the wintertime, there's snow and so on and so forth, and they were there. And I was literally crying because they showed up, because I didn't think that they'd be able to show up. And I probably played one of my better tournaments or better games when they were there too, just because I was so jacked up for them to be there, and I wanted to show well in front of them. So yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. It always matters to me when my parents make the trip from beautiful Stratford, because I know it's not an easy trip. And so anytime they're there at 9 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever time the game happens to be at, it means the world to me, because they've sacrificed their time and their energy to be there to support me. So I think it makes a huge difference. And I can only imagine how much of a difference it makes to a guy on a team like Team Canada, who probably doesn't often get to have their parents there.
Especially when it's a winter sport. And I'm not taking away from summer sports at all, because the support is there when it's there. But winter sports, it just seems like there's that extra level of effort that needs to be taken to go and support people, because of weather, because of travel, because of all those things.
You got to put on the long underwear.
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Especially in Canada.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for me, when I went to my first Paralympic Games in 2008, my entire family, my immediate family, came to the Paralympic Games, and I cannot tell you how much that drove me to do better. And I won my first 2 games at the Paralympic Games as an 18-year-old, and it really does do something. And I've talked about this before on the program, so I won't go into great detail with it here, but I remember when I had that horrible training camp that I've talked about, I saw my mom, and she was like, "Oh, you don't look good. What's up?" And I'm like, I just had a really crappy training camp. I'm not feeling it. I'm not. And she's like, and she did. She put her hands on my shoulders and she said, "You belong here, and go and do what you do." And I'm sure that was part of what, pushed me over the edge and got me on board for the Paralympics, because I knew that I had the backing of my family and the people that raised me and put it all together. So yeah, I agree with you both. I think it does make a big difference. And when people say, yeah, it's just one of those things, people say you have to experience it, I think, to understand what the families can do for impact on you specifically.
When we think back to the playoff game that you like to bring up so often of mine, Brock, I don't think it would have been the same for me had my parents and you and your entourage not been there. And I mean, I don't remember, but Cam, maybe you were at that game as well. I don't recall, but it means the world to me anytime family and friends show up.
Yeah, I mean, I can still relive that shootout like it was yesterday, as I was like, I don't know if I can watch this. You know.
Yeah, I keep trying to forget.
It's tough, and I often say it's tougher to watch than it is to be an athlete. Like when I've gone back and watched bocce in different ways, it's tougher to watch and be supportive of your close friends, because it's like, I want to see them succeed, and when they struggle or when they're not on the right side of the inch, as Devin Haru mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that can be really, really tough as well. So family and friends really is a good support system and what have you. But like we've been saying, it doesn't just have to be family. It can be friends, acquaintances, anybody that's really supporting your endeavors, and it can even go beyond sports. I mean, we've had people and individuals follow us through this podcast and this journey through all of its iterations, and I can speak for all of us. We are very grateful and appreciative that people continue to listen to, as our old colleague Brett Wills would call it, three talking heads, on the podcast. It really does mean something when you see the numbers and you put it all together and you go, there are people listening to our little podcast. And so we appreciate it. So it does go further than just, sports, and it's everyday life situations as well.
So before you start, Brock, with because I think you're about to get into a new segment, we've got some breaking news here.
Oh, I love breaking news.
That has just happened. The Blue Jays have announced that they're hired David Popkins as their new hitting coach. He last worked with the Twins, where he spent the past 3 seasons before he was not brought back after the 2024 season. So I know hitting has been a sore spot with the Jays, I'd say, for at least the past couple of years. So hopefully things are going to turn around with David Popkins.
Yes. David Popkins is the missing piece of the Toronto Blue Jays. Absolutely, I'm all for those. All for those things. You got to make changes.
Sense some sarcasm there, Brock.
I wouldn't say the missing piece, but a piece.
Yes. Yeah. No. I don't know. I just think that there's more problems with the Toronto Blue Jays than hitting. But we'll chat a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays in a little while, because I did put it on today's script. But if we don't get there, we will touch on it in weeks down the road. One of the things that we mentioned in our headlines was the fact that OnPara, our sponsor, is currently looking for board members, and I thought I would pull on this a little bit and talk more in depth about why boards are important. So let's start with the question: why is it important for organizations, particularly in parasports, to have a board? Let's start with Josh and then go straight over to Cameron.
Well, from my perspective, having served on a board, it helps guide the organization. It helps to sort of make sure that everything is running smoothly. It makes sure that people are put in places of responsibility so that things like ice times get booked and schedules get made and dues are paid properly and fees that need to be paid to certain places get paid. So boards literally make the organization run in many cases.
Yeah, I think with boards, it's very important to have board members and that they have different working life experiences. So they kind of know how to do things. So, as an example, you might want to have, somebody that has an accounting background to do maybe the finances. Maybe you want somebody to, you know, maybe work at events because you might have a para ice hockey tournament or a bocce tournament or whatever the case is. So having somebody into that. So just as Josh mentioned, being able to organize all of those events and all of the teams and all of the times. But I think it's also very good to have a board so they can set up kind of rules and regulations of how the board should work. So, as we've seen time and time again, safety is a big thing. So you want to be able to have some sort of a harassment plan. You want to have to make sure that the players or the people are safe and not just necessarily safe from predators or whomever. You want to make them safe on the ice as well and have a plan. If somebody does get hurt, okay, what do you do when a player gets hurt? Call an ambulance or whatever that is. So there's a lot of things like that you need a board for, as well as having just something simply as an annual general meeting. Because if you are an organization that takes funds in, you do need to have an annual general meeting. So to make sure that runs and goes smoothly as well. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons why you should have a board of directors. And those are just some of the things off the top of my head that I think, the reasons why they have boards and they should have boards.
And also, too, like, the reason that comes to my mind is you don't want to have one person running an organization. So the president of said organization, you don't want one person making said decision. And Cameron, you brought up the point about boards and voting on different things and such like that. And the reason for the votes is to make sure that everybody is in agreement and the majority kind of rules in a situation, so that one president or a couple of people can't just run an organization the way they want to, and athletes get represented. It's a way to make sure that the organization gets run above board and there's nothing underminedly that happens or things of that nature, and all that sort of stuff. Cameron, you also brought up the point about having different people and different athletes and different skill sets. Why do you feel, if you could elaborate, that the value of is that you should have a diverse board represented?
I think it's very important because you need a bunch of different people's perspective. So if you have, in our particular case, the Cruisers, they have an athletes rep, and I think you need to have an athlete on the board so they can take anything from the athletes to the board, because maybe some of the athletes are intimidated by going to the board, because that can be a very intimidating thing sometimes to go to a board of directors and you think, oh, that's scary, and it's really not, but the athletes might not realize that. So, and when I say diversity, and I mentioned before about, somebody with accounting background so they can do the finances. But I think you want diversity in the way of, different people, men and women, different nationalities on the board as well, because we're such a multicultural society that I think it's good from the perspective of having different nationalities and both male and female on the board. So you can just get a diverse, questions that are going to be asked by different people. And it's going to teach a lot of people different things if it's a diverse board, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right on the ball there. You need people with different skill sets in order to get things done. If you can have someone who's good at planning, they're going to be able to help you make a season schedule or plan the tournament that you are hoping to host, or any number of things. And as you mentioned, You need to have athletes involved so that their voices are heard. You need to have community members involved so that you can have needs of sponsors and of people that are going to be around these events considered. And you need experts. And the more diverse a board you can have, whether it be in skill sets or in backgrounds or experiences, the better off you're going to be as an organization.
Josh, I know you have had the opportunity to be on a board as the athlete's rep. What did you learn from that experience that you wouldn't have known about yourself but for being the athlete's rep?
I think you learn how to stand up for those around you and for yourself, because you can't just sit and be a wallflower if you're representing a group. You actually have to be engaged, and you have to be present, and you have to take those needs of everyone, not just yourself, into account. And you have to decide, okay, I as an athlete don't particularly like this, but can I see why it's good for the organization as a whole? And on the flip side, a decision might get made to hold something in a certain place, and you say to yourself, but no one in the organization is close to that. So why are we doing that? Why are we not keeping the athlete's needs in mind here and keeping it closer to home? So you learn a bunch of skills that you may not have previously known you had, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Cameron, have you had any experience with a board, whether it's being a part of one, going to a board with an issue or a recommendation or something? Like, what have you had sort of experience on in regards to boards?
Yeah, I was a board member of the Cruisers. I think I was called something at large.
Director at large?
Director at large, and that wasn't about my weight, although I am a bit heavier than I used to be. But in those days, I think I was a director at large. I don't think I was considered an athlete's rep. I think that came later. But yeah, like for me, the experience was, learning that I had a voice and to be a bit more aggressive, because if I don't talk, then who's going to listen to me? So it was, trying to get that confidence that my ideas were valid and that they were good. And that's a lifelong process for me, but it helped me to do that a little bit more. And just kind of learning the rules of the board. Like you have to have an AGM once a year, and I think it has to be on the same day or very close to the same day every year. When at that point in time, we were going over the bylaws, and there was a certain process for the bylaws that you to get them changed. So I was learning that as well, as far as how to change the bylaws and how many people. Does it the majority that had to say yes in order to change those bylaws? Just kind of learning how to run a board and the rules. That's kind of what I remember of being on the board. Because like I said, we changed or we went over kind of the entire organization and had a completely new document when we were done, and then when I was done on the board.
That's a lot of work to overhaul an entire document and put together something totally new. Like, you make it sound easy just in the way that you have to describe it, and I know you weren't trying to make it sound easy, but it really, like, these documents are pages and pages
so
and pages to try to put it together and to put a little bit of legalese and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It really is a recipe that you really have to put together. And what I always liked about boards was the fact that you had to have quorum when you had your meetings. You had to have so many members of the board there in order to have a meeting. And again, this is not so that, 2 or 3 people could come and make a decision, and that's that. These are all rules that are put in place to make sure that a organization runs fairly, safely, smoothly, all of those things. And I believe, I don't know if it's a standard thing, but it does feel like it's something that a lot of boards do. I believe that you have to meet in and around once a month. Maybe you can be stretched a little bit here and there, but more often than not, you see boards meeting once a month in time. And
Yeah, I think it depends on your
Bylaws.
bylaws. Thank you. That's the word I had and lost. I know there are some organizations that, like for example, professional organizations might only have to meet once a year, but they're but they might require that other committees of the organization meet quarterly. So it all depends on your bylaws and what the law states.
yeah,
Basically,
it's challenging, but it's rewarding. I'll give you guys a little bit of my background in boards. I've represented boards at AGM meetings. I haven't been on a board for a parasports organization, but I have been there for AGMs and voting, and making sure that you vote the members in that you feel you need in, and that's something of importance. If you're listening to our voices, and I think we would all agree on this, going to your annual general meetings are important, because if you want a voice, you need to vote, and you need to vote for the people who you believe stand for what you want. And so for me, I've tried to make it a point of going to these AGMs for the organizations that I've been a part of. I've been on athletes councils, but the board that stands out in my mind was I was on the accessible transportation board for Peel Region TransHelp. And we were very, very, very respected, the board. It was really, really something good, and I'm really glad that it worked out well. For me, one of the things that stands out in my mind was we had some frivolous activity take place with funds, and I remembered the board, the chairman of the board coming in one day, and he said, "Yeah, the president of TransHelp at that time, Mark, is going to come in, and he's got some really unfortunate news to share." And the board kind of, okay, what's going on? And we were told that quite a bit of money had been stolen from the organization, and we were encountered as to what should we do, like what is the next process in this. We had to go through the bylaws and the pages and all this about like what happens next under this situation, and it had to be put to a vote as to, do we do A with these people? Do we do B? What do we do? C? Do we do a combination? So the boards are very, very important, but you can have those moments where something happens on the board and you're just like, oh, this is going to be a long meeting because something comes out and it's just like, oh
Hours
boy,
upon hours.
here we go. Right. And sometimes you'd have meetings that would be, half the time, and other time it just depends, and it depends on situations. But I always loved being a part of boards that I had been a part of, and I really felt valued in most situations. To close this conversation, why, if anyone's listening, should they be a part of a board in whatever capacity they are, disabled, able-bodied, whichever? Cameron, start with you and then go straight over to Josh.
Yeah, I think it's a great learning experience. It teaches you about boards, and it teaches you a lot about your rights too, because a lot of times that discussion comes up. So when you're, as an example, a player, there's the conduct policy. And all boards probably have some sort of a conduct policy. So it kind of teaches you the way you should conduct yourself, what you can get in trouble for. Teaches you a lot about safety, teaches you a lot about insurance too, because a lot of the players have insurance on them. The board has insurance on them too, in case somebody tries to sue you as well. So there's just so many life things that you can learn from being on a board. And I think it really helps a person to find their voice, to be able to speak up as well. So I think that's a very valuable thing, being on a board, because you need to be able to advocate for either the players and or just for the club, and not just see it through your child's eyes. Because I think that's what can happen a lot of the time too, is you want what's best for your child, so you end up suggesting things that's just based on your child. But when you're on the board, you have to think about the entire organization. So I think it's good for that as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. It teaches you to think about more than just yourself. It shows you how much work is actually involved in doing what you do. I think sometimes we as athletes fall into the trap of, oh, I just show up on Saturday morning with my gear and I get to play. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff that went into that before you ever got to show up with your gear and just play. And it wouldn't hurt for you to actually get involved in some of that stuff. In addition to that, you can certainly learn about, as you said, certain skills or certain areas of life that you might not have had exposure to in the past. Unfortunately, on the kind of downside, I think there are also times when you learn how apathetic people can be towards things, and how some people just literally think that they just have to show up and they don't have to do anything else. And that can be a bit frustrating when you are a board member, because you know the amount of work that went into what you're doing, or the tournament that you've put on, or the gala event that you've arranged. So all in all, it's just it's learning, it's broadening your horizons, and you might find that you're good at it.
Yeah, I think what I go back to as being part of an athletes council was when we were voted by the players in athletes only meetings at national championships. We would have conversations of like, people would say, I don't like this coach because of A, B, C reason. And is there any chance or any way that you guys can potentially, be an advocate to relieve them of their duties? And we'd have to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is not the level. This is not where the board is supposed to be, acting. We just can't come in and, demand that coach A, B, and C gets relieved of their duties. So you do get kind of sometimes outlandish requests, but you then, if somebody says I have a reason to want to see coach A, B, or C relieved of their duties, you can bring that as a concern. But I think sometimes the misnomer of the general public can be how much power certain arms of the boards have, because we were an athletes council, we were not part of the board of the particular organization. So I think sometimes the extensions of the board can be a little bit murky in the waters in situations like that. But I remember when I got involved in my first athlete council meeting, and somebody said, can we look at getting coach A, B, and A relieved of their duties? I was like, whoa, is this something I really want to get involved in? But everything you guys are pointing out, giving me the voice, understanding what the organization needed, wanted, understanding how much work really goes into it. And I'm going to say it, and I think, Josh, you kind of alluded to it. There are those board members who come and think, I got to do my X number of, board meetings, and that's what I do, and I give my opinion and I walk away. Those board members can be frustrating, because then the work that they're supposed to do falls on other people. and then the stress level becomes higher and higher and higher, and that's very stressful in and of itself. So you do have to pull your weight on a board and understand what you're getting into before you get into it. Talk to somebody that's on the board and say, what is it I'm getting into? Get the information you need before you just jump in and say, oh, I can do my 12, 24 meetings, whatever it is, in a year. And that's that, because it does go further than that. If you are interested in getting on the OnPara board of directors, just go to www.onpara.ca and follow them on all of their social media platforms for more details. I strongly encourage you to get involved. With the last 5 minutes or so that's left in the show, Cameron, you've evaded the Toronto Blue Jays talk once again. The World Series will be... It's coming, though. It's coming, I promise you. The World Series will be taking place this week, if you're listening to the podcast on the week of its release, and that will be taking the New York Yankees versus the LA Dodgers. Not necessarily the matchup that I would have wanted. I was rooting for the New York Mets. I think, though, if you ask the MLB, they probably wanted this matchup. Thoughts from both of you? Let's begin with Josh on this one. How do you see this series shaping up as we record just ahead of the series starting?
I think it has the potential to be a very good series. However, I think it will all depend on pitching. And I think that's why you've seen the two teams that are here get here. It's because of their pitching staffs. I know I was on board with the Detroit Tigers a couple of shows ago when we found out that they were going to make the wild card round. But then I learned that they basically had one starting pitcher and then throw the rest in a bag and pull out a name. And as we saw, that did get them quite a ways, but it did not ultimately get them to the league championship, which really it should have. I think they were a better team than what happened. But for this one, I mean, you've got Shohei Ohtani versus Mike. I was going to call him Mike Judge. That's not his name. That's not his name at all.
I think Mike Judge was wasn't he a TV guy, or he produced was it South Park or something? I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
Or was it Beavis and Butthead?
Oh, I have no idea. Neither of those were really my show. But you basically have Shohei Ohtani versus Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. So Stanton has certainly made a name for himself in the ALCS, having hit 4 home runs to help lead his team to the World Series. But I think it's all going to come down to pitching. Who can pitch better? I personally am rooting for the Dodgers, mostly because I'm tired of seeing the Yankees win.
Oh, they haven't won since 2009, but
they can wait longer.
It's the Evil Empire versus the East Evil Empire versus the West Evil Empire. So I hope they both lose. Unfortunately, that's not possible. So I'm always going to go with the Blue Jays in the event of anything else. So with the Dodgers, they have Kiermaier, who I think is a great guy, and I'd like him to win a World Series because I think he's about to retire. And the other gentleman that's on the Dodgers, where his name escapes me. Hopefully you boys can help me.
Teoscar Hernandez.
Thank you. Teoscar Hernandez. The Jays traded him, and that was a huge mistake. So I hope he gets his cookies and he gets his World Series championship.
And smile the whole time.
Yeah, but I don't want Shohei to get it because he's just a traitor and he didn't go to the Jays. So, but I hope they both lose. So there you go.
Needless to say, Cameron is holding grudges against Shohei Ohtani. That's fair, Cameron. You're allowed to do that. I that's fine.
100%.
As for my pick for winner, I agree with you, Cameron, it's the evil East versus the evil West, but I will side with you and say that I am rooting for the Toronto Blue Jays' interests. So I guess that means that the Los Angeles Dodgers are my pick for this World Series. I'm not going to be excited to watch this series. I'm going to grin and bear it, I think, and just kind of say, okay, fine, I talk sports, I'll do this, but it's not a series where I'm like, oh yay, gotta get up and see this and stay up till 11:30 every night and do this. Like, it's not.
No, if any game's past 9 o'clock, I'm not watching it. I'll be in bed.
Well, it starts at 8:08, I think, so you might get about 50 minutes, and that's what you get. You can
Even the West Coast games are starting at 8?
Yeah, they're all the same. All the same.
Okay.
So it's that's where you can hit the record button though, and
What's a record button?
Put tape in your VCR, Cameron. And that's
No, I have a beta.
oh,
No dare.
and there's the age of
And
Cameron.
I'm not 100% sure what that is.
An 8-track, a beta. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah. Cameron, I know you're not going to be there, but I'm going to ask you. Argos are hosting the East semifinal. Do you think the Argos can get to the East final and then possibly Grey Cup, or what do we think?
100%. I think they're going to end up beat Ottawa. They beat them, although they let the gas off the pedal in the second half because it was a lot closer of a game than it should have been. I think it ended up 38-31. But no, as much as I don't like him, Chad Kelly, he's a damn good quarterback, and they've got a couple of receivers that are good, and the running back for the Argos, he's phenomenal too. So I think that they're going to end up being Ottawa, and then it's just whether or not they can beat Montreal. So I think they've got a great chance to get to the Grey Cup. So go Argos.
Stuck on loyalty of season tickets right there. Josh, I don't recall. Did I ask you who was going to win the World Series?
Yes, you did. And I believe we've all agreed that it's going to be the Dodgers, or at least that's what we want.
Well, there we go. You're going to hear Josh's answer twice on the podcast because I am old and didn't remember what he said. So
I was going to say, you have sometimer's disease.
Yeah.
Sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
You're also the youngest one on the podcast today, so none of that.
That's true.
I'm old BS.
At least you didn't pick up a fly swatter this week and threaten to hit me, or what it looked.
No, it's here, but it wasn't needed this time.
It's needed to.
Best line I got from Mark Aflalo when he released the podcast last week, and there it is. It's right there. It's around. Best line I got from our technical producer Mark Aflalo last week was, "I'm leaving the fly swatter comment in because I thought it was hilarious, and we wanted it left in." So there you go. But
As it should.
yeah, we got to have a little bit of fun. Anyway, the clock says we're done. So that's the end of the Neutral Zone for this week. I'd like to thank Cam Jenkins and Josh Watson. I'd also like to thank the aforementioned technical producer, Mark Aflalo. Stay tuned for next week because you just never know what happens when you enter the Neutral Zone. Be safe, be well.
The Neutral Zone is brought to you by the Ontario Para Network. Connect with them at ON Para Network. Follow them online at onpara.ca. Now that's a winning combination.